All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to study a very special molecule. Now, we've been learning about it. It's DNA. It makes every single living organism. This chapter is called Chapter 11, A Very Twisted Tale of Hard Work. And we're talking about DNA, of course. We're going to learn its structure, and we're going to learn how it does its job. So what it's doing in every one of our cells. Now, we got a lot of DNA, and each person's DNA is unique. And it makes us. We got a lot of DNA. It's in every single one of our cells. This DNA has an important job. Taking all of the DNA in our bodies, it's basically making thousands of different proteins. So our DNA is instructions that our cells use to make the proteins our body needs. Enjoy the cartoon. Here's a protein made from DNA that decides the light that our body is able to absorb in our eyes. Here's a protein our DNA makes, allowing our blood cells to carry gas, get rid of the bad stuff, and bring in the good oxygen. This is kind of a cartoon representation of what's happening in the cells when proteins are getting made, and we'll learn all about this. But just remember, DNA makes all these complex molecules called proteins that all have different jobs. And based on which cell uses what sections of DNA, you get different cells that make up the whole organism, all the structures. All right, so what you need to do is just look at each of these images. Image 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And take some time to try to think, what is this? What are these different images, these 6 total images, trying to show you? Or what do you understand from them? And then you're supposed to do is what's called synthesizing. Synthesis writing, which is what I want you to do, is write combining ideas from different of the 6 pictures. Just combine them in a way that makes sense to you, that you can talk about them. If you're not feeling too creative, you can always use this little sentence starter right here, which was based on some of the pictures we have here. So you can choose certain ones you want to talk about, or you can use mine and fill in the blanks with the appropriate word for whichever these you think it is. For example, it says our cells contain 46, that's right, chromosomes. Each one is made up of, well, if you follow the story along the pictures I made, you can kind of figure out what you'd want to put here. And it's based on blank code. So how would you describe the code? Again, you don't have to follow this structure and try to figure out which words to put in the blank. You can always just create your own and make sense of some of these pictures and try to put them together in a story that combines different pictures together in a synthesis. All right, good luck. Here's our slide 2. Slide 2 has 4 total problems that we need to write in our notebook. So please do that now. Go ahead and pause the video. Make sure you get problems 1 through 4 in your notebook. These problems are what brings purpose to what we do in class. So it's the reason why we're learning this at all, because we want to understand what? We want to understand how DNA can help me live a healthy life. Problem number 2, why it's so important is, why do you want your body to build proteins? Now, they're very important, but why? We're going to spend a lot of time looking at different proteins that do good things for your body. For example, proteins that DNA makes could be antibodies, the things in your body that help attack the flu virus and tries to get it out of your body, remove it. Proteins involve hormones, and we studied a lot of hormones in the past, many months ago, but we found out hormones help you respond to danger, hormones help you sleep. Many hormones are different types of protein. We learned a lot of proteins called protein channels, or channel proteins. These transporter proteins help good things get into your cells, and your cells remove them. Without proteins, your cells can't transport anything good or bad out of it. And of course, when we think protein, we always think muscle, like this buff lady. So we'll continue looking at proteins and making sure that we talk about ones that you find interesting. And really, we're just going to spend time trying to better understand why we should care about protein. All right, problem number 3 is, how do my life choices affect my cell's DNA? So we're going to study things from sunburns to drugs to the pollution in our environment at Burbank. By the way, the darker zones are higher pollution areas around us. So the darker the red's the bad as far as pollution. But we're going to study how our environment, our choices, and our life affect our DNA. It certainly does. Right here is this whole graphic represents kind of damaged DNA. And then finally, we're going to perform a job just like scientists do to study and identify mutations in illness. That'll be our final project, and that'll help us understand problem 4. So make sure you've paused this and you've included all 4 problems that are going to kind of be the basis for this chapter and our exploration and discoveries. And make sure you put a nice kind of border on it, highlight it, so it stands out. All right, let's move on. All right, slide 3 has the definition for DNA. Make sure you get it, so go ahead and pause the video if you need to. Again, this is slide 3. So we want to watch the video and see if we can summarize how DNA and chromosomes are related. Make sure after you watch the video, of course, in your notebook, just like it says, you're writing a summary of how chromosomes and DNA are related. What does DNA have to do with chromosomes, or what do chromosomes have to do with DNA? So find some relationship between the two. See how you can summarize that in your own words using the video. Now, just to be clear, it's giving a definition right here, so feel free to read it. It says a chromosome is an entire chain of DNA along with a group of stabilizing proteins. So a chromosome is a long chain of DNA. Let's see how the animation unfolds. So you can see that the chromosomes, and this would be one sister chromatid if you remember the vocab, and another sister chromatid, theirs are identical clones of each other attached in the center. They'll eventually break apart. Check out some more. So it's showing you that the chromosome itself is really tightly coiled and compressed or compacted DNA, folded with these things called histone proteins. We'll learn more about them. This is slide 4, and on slide 4 we have a definition that you should definitely write down. So write slide 4, and then the definition says nucleotide. There are 4 molecular forms of nucleotides. We have A as in adenine, T as in thymine, C as in cytosine, and G as in guanine. So there's 4 specific nucleotide molecules that are ordered in a specific sequence, one after the other, in specific ways to create the code that is DNA, the code that will actually make a specific protein that makes you who you are. It says each form has a unique nitrogen base. So all nucleotides are similar. They all have a phosphate molecule bonded to a deoxyribose sugar molecule. But the part that makes each nucleotide different, that is, which makes A, G, T, and C different, is they all have a different base. So adenine has a base that looks like this. Guanine has a base that looks like this. And you get the point. Now all nucleotides have these 3 parts, but A, G, T, and C all differ in what we call the base, or the section of the nucleotide called the base. All right, number 1, it says interpret the model. It says A, T, C, and G are different. Are A, T, C, and G different atoms or molecules? You'll fill in the blank. And it says forming the what? Does it form the phosphate, sugar, or base? So does the A, T, C, and G, are they different forms forming the phosphate, sugar, or base? So just look at the picture. It says A, T, C, and G are forming what part of the nucleotide? And then you fill in the blank right here. Of A, now, are these creating, so what is this basically? To fill in the last blank of question number 1, is this DNA or is this a nucleotide? And that's what you put in the final blank. Number 2, it says identify name for each base. So just like I've done for you, just write A equals adenine, T equals thymine, C equals cytosine, and then G equals guanine. So spell them just like you see them. And then number 3, it says compare and contrast how each nucleotide is similar or how they're different. So these are the bases that make each nucleotide different. What do you notice that's different between them? So compare and contrast as best you can. Just remember that N's represent nitrogen, H represents hydrogens. If you've seen O, that's oxygen, C is carbon. So they have different structures, and you can definitely see that they have certain elements or certain atoms that make them. Take that into account while you compare and contrast. Let's check out a quick video. So you can see that spiral shape and all the nucleotides. Now this is just a model. It doesn't show that they're really molecules. That just looks like little letter shapes, but it's a simplified model to show you that this is a code that these nucleotides create the DNA and they form bonds on either side. Let's practice with this and see if we can make our own double-stranded DNA. Slide 5 and slide 5, after you've written slide 5 in your notebook, just go ahead and copy the definition down for nucleotide. It says nucleotide is a smaller molecule chemically bonded together to form a larger DNA polymer. So basically, like we've already discussed, nucleotides are these special molecules that have this structure. So it's a molecule made up of 3 smaller molecules, but these things get repeated to make DNA like you see here. Basically, if you take 23 chromosomes, say the 23 chromosomes found in an egg or the 23 chromosomes found in someone's sperm, just those 23 chromosomes contain 3.2 billion nucleotides. And since we have 46 total chromosomes in our normal cells, that means our cells contain 6.4 billion nucleotides total. That's a lot of nucleotides to make our DNA. And everybody's DNA is a little different, so the nucleotides your DNA have would be a little different from mine. Alright, so it says in your notebook for slide 5, it says draw and label a nucleotide. So copy this down and label this part as phosphate, this part as deoxyribose sugar, and this part as base. Next, it says interpret each nucleotide model. You have model A, model B, and model C. What is the benefit of each? Why would an artist draw a nucleotide like this? What do you think is good about when a scientist would draw a model of a nucleotide like that? And then what's good about this one? What information do you get from this one that you don't get from A? So you just give a value. What's good about A? What's good about B? And then finally, this is another model of a nucleotide. And you can see it looks way different than this one, and it looks different from this one. What could be good about knowing this model? So you just give one positive thing about each model. Now there are 3 different models, all of the same thing. They're just 3 different models of a nucleotide. 3 different ways of showing a nucleotide. Alright, let's move on to slide 6. Slide 6 is pretty good, but we gotta fix it and add that great name. This is a real printout of someone who's been studying a particular part of DNA. You can see how the code is spit out, all these A's, T's, C's, and G's. And it's kind of interesting. There's a lot more A's than T's and a lot less G's and C's in our DNA. Alright, slide 7 is an activity. It's the last slide we'll do for our first video of chapter 11. Your job is to identify which nitrogen bases bond chemically. So use this right here. This green is C. What is this one? Use the key here to figure out which one this is. So C bonds with which one here? And then this one is A. Which one is it bonding to here? So use the key again and figure out which bases connect the 2 sides of DNA here. For example, this is C and it forms a bond to G. This is A, it forms a bond to what? Alright, then your job is to copy this down in your notebook. So you're going to draw this single-stranded model of DNA. And then just like DNA is, it's double-sided. Your job is to do a second side here, showing the other side of DNA, and draw it just like you see here, but it'll end up kind of looking a little like this. But do it in a way that shows the correct bases forming that connection or that chemical bond between each side. All right, so don't forget to make it double-stranded. Good luck.